Hey you, welcome to my channel, A Year and a Day. My name is Jenny and today I'd like to chat about my journal and planner setup for 2025. It's kind of a grey Sunday here in my little corner of the world and I woke up feeling a little bit low. So I thought, what's better to cure that than to just sit down and have a chat about some fun stuff. So let's start with the systems I am currently using for journaling and planning. So I've always loved journaling and I've always loved taking notes and just having pretty notebooks around. So I have quite a few of them already and most of them are getting used at the moment. I've also tried so many things in the past that didn't work out for me. Things that I really appreciated seeing on other people's channels or that I just really love the idea of. But that when I tried them for myself, they just never stuck with me. And it just ended up being a half-finished project or a half-filled notebook. But there are a few things that have been working for me. So kind of developing a practice and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't, that's a whole process. And it changes over time and it just, at least for me, it has taken me so many years to just try to figure out what works. One of the things that absolutely works for me and that I wouldn't want to go without is my journaling for mental health. And this is the part of my practice where I am using tarot and oracle decks. Now, one of you was so kind to ask me in a comment if I could maybe do a separate video on my journaling practice and how I am using tarot for that. And I've been wanting to make a video like that for a long time now, and that comment was really an inspiration to start working on a video on that. So I will definitely do a separate video on that journaling practice. For now, I can say that this is the part of my practice that really focuses on my mental health. And for me, that means that whenever I am kind of struggling with myself, my emotions, my life, with making choices in my life or trying to figure out what's best for me, those are the moments where I turn to writing. And I've done this ever since I was a teenager, and it's something that is a complete outlet for me. It's kind of a coping mechanism and maybe even some sort of survival strategy that I've developed over the years. So this is a practice that I have been doing, like I said, ever since I was a teenager, and throughout the years I've tried out a lot of different notebooks and systems for that. I had been in a traveler's notebook for years and years and I very much enjoyed that system. But as my journaling practice kind of developed over time and I discovered tarot and oracle and started incorporating that with my journaling practice, I needed a bit more space in my journals. And I found the size of the traveler's notebooks, the regular size, I found them a bit limiting. So I switched to, I think this is like B6 or something. I'll put it in the screen. This is a size larger than A5. And I originally started out with the Moleskine notebooks. And let me grab those real quick. So this was the system that I've been in for years and it has been really working for me very well. I have a whole stack of notebooks like this that I've filled out over the years. These follow a kind of monthly structure. So I always do a monthly spread where I pull some cards for the month ahead. Then throughout the month I just write whenever I feel like it, basically. which is every couple of days or so. And then at the end of the month, I do a monthly recap, just briefly going over the highlights and memories of that month and kind of trying to analyze how the cards I pulled at the start of the month kind of related to the things that have been happening. So that's kind of the structure of these notebooks. Now recently I've switched the type of notebooks that I'm using for this journaling practice. And I decided to switch to a notebook that has more fountain pen friendly paper. For now I have chosen to go with a Clairefontaine notebook. Again, it's quite a plain and simple notebook. There are so many beautiful and very fancy notebooks out there, but I've noticed that what works best for me is to just keep it really plain and really simple, because then I will not have any sense of preciousness about the notebook. I really want this practice to be about the work that I am doing, and I want to feel free to just write, and I do include pictures of the cards that I'm drawing, but sometimes the pictures are really beautiful and sometimes it's just the cards on the table, take a picture and just print it out. So there is, in that sense, not a lot of room for creativity in this journaling practice. Now, I am not sure if I will continue to use these specific notebooks. I am not really sure yet if I truly love this type of paper enough, or if I want to switch to another notebook and just try out a few different brands before maybe settling on one that really works for me. I have been enjoying using more fountain pens, more types of inks, more colors. You know, I do my own thoughts in one color and then switch to another color for like write-ups from the guidebooks or quotes or stuff like that. So this is a practice that will remain with me, I think, for years and years to come. I cannot imagine ever really letting this practice go. So my journaling practice, or at least my journaling practice for mental health, for which I am using tarot and oracle decks, that is a practice that really works well for me and that I want to continue in 2025. Over the years, I've also tried different types of journaling. I've tried like memory keeping. I've tried 5-year journals. So these are journals that cover 5 years and the same day goes into one page. So if you consistently use that journal, then in 5 years you will have kind of a log of your life from the past 5 years. I've tried that. I've tried gratitude journals. And what all of those had in common for me was that they required me to consistently write every single day. And what would inevitably happen every single time is that I would lag behind, I would miss a couple of days, then I would have to catch up, so I would need a little bit more time and effort to try and catch up to the current day. Sometimes I would have a whole week that I hadn't been writing, and there always came a point where it was just way too much hassle to go back to catch up. And then my brain was like, well, what's the point? If you're not going to do it 1000%, then what's the point? Let's just not do it at all. So it was always kind of a matter of time before I would quit one of those practices. There was 1 year, however, where I did stick with it, where I kept quite a big journal, and I had just kind of discovered bullet journaling, so I was playing around with setups and stuff. And I actually managed to do like a full year of just memory keeping every single day. And for monthlies, I included pictures, and it was really wonderful. It was especially wonderful to look back on later. And that's kind of the conclusion for me for daily practices, that I absolutely love the idea of it. I love looking back on it later, but I never seem to stick with it. And 2024 was no exception. There came a point where I was captivated by creativity and I was like, okay, I'm going to give this another shot. I'm going to write little memories every day. So I got this really lovely, beautifully illustrated planner, and it's by the brand Cocoa Note. And the illustrations are by Miriam Meyuto. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But I really, really loved her style. I love the cozy vibes. It's a really lovely quality as well. As you can see, it's kind of a gloss on the front here. It came with this really nice sticker sheet. Here we have a few more stickers. And then the calendar itself, it has like these kind of monthly texts and stuff. And it's a daily calendar with 2 days for the weekend. Now, I started this in January. I captured, little memories or highlights for every day. I did it for, I think, about a month before I started missing days. And then I kind of dragged it on until February or March or something. And then I fell off the wagon. It was even so bad that I had already got this in a box in the attic. I completely forgot about it. And when I came back to the idea of planning a few weeks ago, I came across this one again. And I started kind of using it again to experiment with. So this is one of the practices that I tried out many times before, but also in 2024. And that didn't work for me. And then we have actual planning. I don't think me and planners ever truly got along, but there was definitely a time in my life, especially as a teenager in high school and during college, where I would use a paper planner. But for a few years now, I have mainly been using a digital planner on my phone. I just find it convenient to have that with me at all times, and I can just note at least appointments and stuff like that. Where it kind of lacks is when I want to take notes or put in reminders. It's kind of a hassle. So I am using a plain notebook next to my planner. So this is just a very simple notebook. Plain paper. And I have all kinds of stuff in this notebook. I'm not going to really show a lot here because it has a lot of checklists and personal details and stuff like that. But it also has like pen test, or when I just want to try out an ink or something, that's also in here. And then finally in my traveler's notebook, I have this little insert that has undated monthly spreads. And I've started using this one this year to kind of track my mood and my energy levels, and also note down the things that I did, appointments or activities. And I guess this was my way of trying to figure out if I could identify any patterns in that, just to see if I could, get a sense of cause and effect. So this is something that I really enjoyed using, and that, it really felt like a useful practice and piece of information to gather. So when it comes to planning, that's kind of my current system. I have a digital planner, I have a plain notebook, And I have a monthly spread in my traveler's journal. So before we get into what I plan to use in 2025, let's first quickly evaluate. When it comes to journaling, I am really happy with my current tarot journal, meaning the journal I am using for my mental health. I might experiment a bit with different notebooks and stuff, but when it comes to that practice, I know I will just keep doing that in 2025. What I am missing when it comes to journaling is kind of a more creative approach. Having it be a way to kind of keep track on my life, on the things that I am doing, the things that I'm experiencing. Because that bigger journal that I use my tarot cards for, that kind of captures all the struggles and the issues I'm trying to deal with. But I also often feel inspired by things that I am hearing or reading. Sometimes I would like to just list 3 things in my day that made me feel very grateful, or that were little moments of happiness. And sometimes I just would like to write down what I did in a day. And of course I could include all of that in that journal practice. But I also really like the structure that I'm currently using, and I love that that is really the place for me to go to when I am pulling my cards and want to share my thoughts on them. But at the same time, I don't want to start 3 or 4 different notebooks or planners or journals to capture, inspirational stuff and gratitude stuff and memory keeping, because I know from experience that daily writing hasn't really worked for me in the past. So to start 3 or 4 different notebooks or journals for me to capture that is not going to work for me. But I would like to have a place to play around a bit more and to use some washi tape or stickers or illustrations. Just have it be a more creative space for me. So when it comes to thinking about 2025, that's definitely something that came up for me. How to include that more creative side in such a way that will work for me. And then when it comes to planning, honestly, my current system sucks. It's not really working for me. I completely lack overview and structure. I completely get overwhelmed by all the things that I have to do. And something that I specifically struggle with, for example, is completing tasks or doing chores around the house. Basically just adulting in general. I feel like I am constantly trying to catch up on things. I am always 2 steps behind. Things really happen to me instead of that I am in control. And honestly, I feel like there is a better way for me to plan stuff. Some of you who have been to the channel before might know that I was diagnosed with ADHD last year at the tender age of 39. And that explained a lot of what happened in my life up until then. And I am so very grateful that in the end I was diagnosed, and it just gave me so much insight in my own functioning. And for this past year and a half, I have mainly been working on being kinder to myself, accepting myself fully, and not being so hard on myself all the time. And it's actually quite a lot to reprogram 39 years of thought patterns and, inner dialogue. And I am not there yet. This remains a work in progress, and it's something that I will have to stay mindful of for a long time to come, I suspect. What I'm starting to notice is that a little bit more room is available now after a year and a half to kind of zoom out and just look at other things that are also maybe not really working for me currently. And like I mentioned, one of those things is keeping up with chores, keeping up with tasks, but also taking my medicine on time. Just very mundane daily things that for, I guess, a neurotypical functioning human being are just no-brainers. They are just things that come very naturally. Those already are quite a big task for me. And then on top of that, of course, you have a day job, you have social stuff. It often leads to a sense of overwhelm. And having a separate notebook with a gazillion checklists and then a digital planner that only has, those appointments there and then a monthly overview for mood, it's too scattered. And I really feel like I can make some steps there, that I can improve my planner system. And I'm trying to be careful that I am not expecting miracles of myself. Choosing a different planner or something is not going to solve all my problems. But this is about me trying to find a structured way to make things work for me. It might not solve everything, and the perfect system might not even exist. But I do think I can improve on the current way that I'm trying to deal with it all. So that's how the search for my journaling and planner setup for 2025 started. Now, I don't mind spending some money on a new notebook or planner or journal or whatever, but I'm really trying to prevent overspending on random stuff that I haven't thought through and that will not work for me in the end. And that's just such a waste of money and resources, and that's really something that I'm trying to do in every aspect of my life, but also when it came to figuring out what will work for me in 2025. So that meant I really started to brainstorm about my needs and going over a gazillion options, because there are so many options out there. But I really wanted to think it through. So let's start with the more creative journal that I was talking about. First of all, I want it to be pre-dated, meaning I want the dates of the days and the months, etc. all set up in the journal. I've tried bullet journaling and it's absolutely lovely, but it's just way too much of a hassle for me. I just do not enjoy the process of creating those setups enough to keep doing them. So when I come to that journal, I come there to write and to note down whatever it is that I want to note down and maybe decorate a bit, but I want to skip the whole step of the actual setup of the page. When it comes to size, I don't want it to be too big, I don't want it to be too small. I want to have enough room to kind of go wherever it is that I want, because that I think is the most important thing that I told myself for this new journal that I'm going to be using in 2025. I want to combine a lot in that creative journal. And I do not want to have any rules for it. I would very much like to journal every single day. But for days where I maybe don't feel like memory keeping or writing down how I'm feeling or what I've done, on those days maybe I do want to just put down 3 things that make me feel grateful. Or maybe I just want to add some illustrations, or maybe I want to put down some quotes that inspired me that day. Maybe I want to do 2 of the things, or maybe even 3. But when I'm skipping days because I do not feel inspired, it's perfectly okay to then use those blank pages to do some pen test or to just have some cute stickers or trying out some color combinations, and then just continue with the other pages. Because what didn't work for me in the past were the rules that I put on myself for such specific daily journaling. It had to be about this thing and it had to be every day. That doesn't work for me. But all those separate things I do really appreciate. I appreciate having a place to kind of note those down. I appreciate looking back on it later and really having that as a memory of my year. So there are so many things that I would love to do and be more creative with. But I just really have to allow myself to play with it and not kill it with rules. So that was kind of the idea for the creative journal. Then for the planner, I really wanted to have that monthly overview. I wanted to have a weekly overview and I wanted to have a daily overview. And for the planners, I really looked at a lot of different systems because my first thought was, I'm already using that monthly insert for the Travelers system. So I'll just get a bunch of Travelers inserts and have, my beautiful green Travelers notebook function as my planner. But however much I love the Traveler system, and I've been using it for well over a decade and I've absolutely been loving it, I don't think it will fully fit my needs because I would still end up with a few different inserts. So I went to look for a system that maybe would combine them a bit more. And I ended up looking at Hobonichi. Now, of course, in the planner community, Hobonichi is a very huge name. It's a whole thing. There are people out there who are making the most beautiful things in their Hobonichi planners. And there are a lot of options out there. Now, I first looked at the weekly planners by Hobonichi, because they have the same horizontal layout as the Travelers company. And I had kind of already assumed that that was the way for me. That this whole vertical planning situation that the Hobonichi cousin or the Hobonichi Techo has, that wouldn't work for me. So I automatically came to the Hobonichi weekly planners. Then I was like, but I use my notebook that I have on my desk quite a lot. And I love having those pages for general notes or checklists or stuff like that. And I was kind of worried that the Hobonichi Weekly wouldn't have enough pages for notes. So then I considered the Hobonichi Weekly Mega. And like the name suggests, it's the same size, but it's a thicker version that has a lot more blank pages in the back for note-taking. But then I started experimenting a bit myself with the planner that I already had lying around. I kind of was looking for a way of working with a planner. And I noticed that I kind of maybe do feel like those vertical ways of planning could actually really help me out. Because there are so many things that I need to do at certain times in the day, like taking my medication. So having that weekly overview set up like that as a vertical way, I could really see my week and the important times on which I would have to do stuff every single day to have that structure within my week. Then I went back and forth between the Hobonichi A5 and the Hobonichi A6, mainly because the Hobonichi A6 is smaller, it's more portable, it's less intrusive on my desk. And I just want to be able to have it near me at all times. So I really like the A6 size, but the Hobonichi Techo A6 doesn't have the weekly pages. So then I went back to the A5, even though I thought the size would be maybe, first of all, a little bit too large for taking with me, throwing in my bag, having on my desk all the time. But also maybe it would be a little bit more intimidating or something, to kind of feel like I would have way too much room, or I don't know. It didn't really feel right, but at least it would have the monthly, weekly and daily pages. So for planners there were so many options, and I went back and forth between all of them for weeks and weeks and weeks. And on the one hand it felt a bit over the top to try and really work it all out in advance like that. But on the other hand, it really forced me to take a look at my true needs and what I would be using the planner for, the journal for. And still, of course, it remains to be seen how it will truly work for me when I actually start working with everything. But just this whole exercise of going through it over and over and really asking yourself certain questions and visualizing how to work with it, maybe already trying out some things with the planners or notebooks that you already have, it really gave me a lot of insight into my needs and what I wanted to get out of any new planners or journals that I would be bringing in for 2025. So I've now talked for so long already about my current setup, about what I kind of was looking for. Now let's finally take a look at what I settled on for 2025. So what we're looking at now are two A6 size notebooks. On the left in yellow we have my creative journal. And on the right we have my new planner system for 2025. Let's start with the creative journal. This is the Midori Hibino planner for 2025. I believe Midori introduced this planner a few years ago. Now, as you can see, this is quite a chunky planner. And the reason for that is that this is a planner that has daily pages, but it has 2 pages a day. It also has a future log with a yearly overview and then some monthly pages. But after that it goes straight into the daily pages. And it goes like that all the way to the end. And then you have literally a few pages for notes, but that's it. Now I have to admit I gave more thought to my planner system and a little less to this one. The reason why this one attracted me so much was that it has 2 pages a day. And I have to admit, when I got this one, I kind of wanted to do also a bit of planning in this one and a bit of memory keeping or whatever creative stuff I wanted to do. But eventually I did end up choosing to have a separate planner system and then have the creative journal in here. But I think I might really like this one, because now I do, even though it's quite a small size, I could go a lot of ways with this planner. I could note down my plans for the day, I could have a little bit of memory keeping, I could have a little bit more of creative stuff here, I could have illustration here and then gratitude here. There's room enough to do multiple things. And this is Tomoe River paper. That's the same type of very thin paper that the Hobonichi planners use. It's very thin. And of course it has to be, because this otherwise would be even more chunky. But this type of paper is also compatible with fountain pens and stuff. I have to say that I have to get used to it a bit, because even though there is no bleed through, you do get some ghosting. And I'm not very sure how I feel about that, to be honest. Like I said, it's just I'm not used to this type of paper, so I'll just have to try and figure it out and see how I will like it when I start writing in it more. Now, my biggest challenge for this journal is going to be that I want to try and make it perfect. I want to try and be consistent or not make any mistakes and make it just really pretty. And I will have to keep reminding myself that this will not have to be perfect. This is just a creative space to just try stuff out, and those imperfections will eventually make this a very lovely and beautiful notebook. And that's something that I am slowly starting to learn and appreciate, because when I'm striving for perfection, the result often is not perfect at all. But when I'm just creating and I'm just throwing things in there, when I look back at notebooks like that, I really actually enjoy going through notebooks that I've created. So I don't know, maybe finally I'm learning how to accept imperfections and seeing them for the perfect things that they end up being. So I'm really looking forward to starting with this one. I did get these very nice Midori clips that are really nice to just keep the page. Of course, the notebook itself also has a few ribbons. Now, as you can see, this is quite a bendy notebook, and I didn't really plan to get a cover for this one. I really wanted to see how it would work for me first. But I also realized that this kind of fake leather feel of the cover, it would be kind of a shame if that would stain. And also, because it's kind of bendy, I felt like it was already starting to, I don't know, maybe affect the shape of the notebook already. And in the end, I just decided to splurge on a cover. And I can put a link to the cover that I eventually got in the description. As you can see, the book is very well protected, even if it bulks up a bit throughout the year. You can create a little bit more room. And I'm kind of going to try to not take it out anymore and just work from it within the cover as much as possible. I had this little print of one of my photographs lying around. It's on watercolor printing paper. And for now I will be using that as kind of like a pencil board. Or, you know, when I don't want to feel any of the cover through it, I can just put that behind it. And the cover has 2 additional ribbons. And I might add some other stuff as well. There's plenty of room to keep some stickers or stuff like that. So yeah, that's it. This will be my kind of creative journal in 2025. This is the one that I am worried about the most, to say it like that, because I know that a system like this has not worked for me in the past. I do really feel inspired to just start working. This will be a great exercise for myself to battle perfectionism, to throw the rules out the window and just tell myself to have fun with it, to decorate, to just do what feels right in the moment, to keep memories in, but also inspiration, also gratitude stuff. So I don't know, maybe much more a kind of commonplace book than a journal or a planner or anything. And I'm excited to get started with this one. So that is the Midori Hibino in this beautiful yellow cover. Now let's move over to my planner system. This is the one that I actually have quite big expectations of. So let's just take a look. First of all, this is a Sailor Prophet Junior Retro High Side Pop. This is one of their most recent editions. And I'm not sure yet if this will be the exact pen that I will be using for my planner, but I did really love the color combination. Now this is also an A6 size and it is all Hobonichi. This is the Hobonichi Techo for 2025. It's the A6 size. This is a 1 page per day planner. And this A6 size has the monthly overviews. Then it has a page for every month and then the daily pages. So this little booklet holds the monthlies and the dailies. And then in the back I have this weekly calendar for 2025. And this one only has weekly spreads. And this is kind of the system that I ended up with. Like I said, I was really leaning towards that A5 Hobonichi. And then I saw a video here on YouTube by Alison of Little Coco Studio. And she kind of went over her planner system and she was going to try this one out. And I realized that this actually would work for me as well, because it's tiny, it isn't that huge on my desk or anything. But at the same time, I can have both my weekly spread and my checklist, my things that I need to do consistently, and my daily notes and chores next to each other. And that's something that I actually really appreciate, because otherwise I have to go back and forth in the same planner. And now I can really have it together like this. You can very easily just throw it in if you have to be somewhere. Also, if I have certain appointments and I just want to take my weekly with me so I can schedule any follow-ups or something, I can throw this thing in my bag. And you know, when making that appointment with a doctor or whatever, I don't have to like take out an A5 sized super notebook out of my backpack to note down one single appointment. I can just have this. Don't have to be too precious about it and just note it down. It is really tiny. That is one thing that kind of struck me when I first unboxed this. I remember really sitting down and just looking at this and just thinking, oh dear, did I make a mistake? Should I have gone for that A5 size? How am I going to fit everything in here? You know, did I just spend weeks and weeks and weeks over analyzing everything and then end up making a stupid mistake anyway? But the thing is, I really just need to give it a go. I have thought about it a lot and I have made a very conscious decision for this size, for this whole setup. Meaning that in my mind, in theory, this should work for me. And if it doesn't, I can always switch to an A5 size. The most important part is that it will bring me overview and that it will bring me structure. If it does that, but it's the wrong size, then I can live with that. I won't feel too bad about spending money on the A6 size, because switching over to an A5 with an already working system, that's the goal of this. And 2025 will kind of be the year for me where I will try to figure that out, try to see what works, what doesn't work, and then continue for the years after that to see if I need to make any changes or something. But for now, I am happy that I kind of went for this whole system. I kind of plan to maybe make some prints of this layout so I can already start using it in November and December to just kind of start getting used to it and seeing what works and what doesn't. But like I said, in theory, this should kind of fit a lot of needs that I had from a planner system. And of course, this one has all the monthlies where I could track moods and stuff like that, stuff that I am now keeping in my traveler's notebook. And if this does prove to be too small for that, I'll just use it as monthly overviews and I can always go back to my traveler's undated insert. Now, like I said, I'm new to Hobonichi, and I have to be completely honest, my first thought was, I'm not gonna get a cover. Why would I get a cover? The notebook already has a cover, so it's just a cover on a cover and then it gets all bulky, and I didn't want to go there. And I just really wanted to make it work for me first and then start making it pretty and spending money on all the things that you can buy with your Hobonichi, because you can buy a lot, and people do buy a lot for their Hobonichi planner systems. It's now October and September 1st is kind of the date that the new collection is revealed. So I had a lot of unboxings to view on YouTube, and that was a lot of fun. I always enjoy watching those. But in the end, I decided not to go too nuts with it all. I did decide in the end to get a cover, and that was mainly because it has this back pocket. That perfectly fits that weekly calendar. And I like the fact that it's kind of compact. I got one of the cheapest kind of canvas covers out there. I might end up upgrading if I really use this one intensively. Maybe in the future I will get a beautiful leather one or something, but for now I'm actually kind of happy that this isn't too fancy. This is just pretty sturdy and durable. This will protect my calendar, but it will also just keep it together nicely. I got this accessory that kind of keeps the whole thing shut, or will keep your pages. I really appreciate it if it just stays closed like that. I also got these little file holders. They came in a set of 3. And this is from the 2025 lineup, so that's kind of the new designs that were just revealed for 2025, and I really like this illustration style. For now I've kept it quite simple, but I did get some new markers. It just seemed like a lovely addition to have a few colors and stuff that I can use in especially that weekly calendar to kind of highlight certain tasks or reminders that I'm putting in there. And you have sets of these, but I chose a few colors that I really love and that I thought I would really be able to use. I also had this set of pastel colored Stabilo markers. And these are the specific names for all the colors. And then I already had quite an extensive sticker collection already of just stuff that I could use in my planner. And I am using a Delfonics pouch to kind of keep it all together. I have some Ecoline brush pens here as well. I have my Platinum Preppies in extra fine and fine with the Platinum Carbon Black ink, which is kind of waterproof ink, so that's great to combine with markers and stuff. This one I kind of decorated with a few lovely pins. This one I got with the Kickstarter of the Lighted Window Tarot. This one I got ages ago. I don't even remember where I got it exactly, but I had it still lying around. And this is one of the Galen leather patches that you can put on a traveler's notebook, but I just attached it to my Delfonics pouch. So that, my friends, is my journal and planner setup for 2025. I hope it was even slightly enjoyable for you to listen to me go on and on about my current setup and my different wishes and needs for 2025. And feel free to share your thoughts about your own systems that you are using or what you think of my current setup. I really loved giving it a lot of thought to really go over the things that work for me and that do not work for me, the things that I love in my current practice and the things that I am missing. But after all this thinking and planning, I am also very ready to start doing and to start using all of this. And I remind myself often of one of my favorite all-time sayings. Never confuse the aesthetics with the actual work. It is a lot of fun to buy pretty things. It's very satisfying to have a beautiful planner and a beautiful notebook and pretty covers and all of that. But at the end of the day, all that matters is what I'm going to do with all of this. By using that planner system, I hope to get more overview and structure into my daily life. And by keeping a creative journal, a kind of commonplace book, I hope to spark more creativity and joy within my practice. That is the work that I intend to do with all of this. And I cannot wait to get started. So with all of that being said, I wish you all a lovely rest of your day or night, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!